Imagine a squad of private contractors, helicopters, small boats, and armed teams operating off the coast of Venezuela to intercept suspected drug shipments. It sounds like a thriller, but in 2025, U.S. actions in the Caribbean and Eastern Pacific have already blurred the line between law enforcement and war. Tonight, we ask a fraught question. If an administration is willing to stretch legal limits today, would it hire private military companies to do the rest tomorrow? Since early September 2025, U.S. military forces have carried out a series of strikes on small vessels in international waters that the administration describes as narcotics threat operations. Officials say these strikes targeted boats tied to traffickers the government has labeled as violent transnational threats.
So yeah, I think so, yeah.
And this issue of potential land strikes in Venezuela, is that true?
I don't tell you that. I mean, I'm not saying it's true or untrue, but I wouldn't.
Why would we do it?
I wouldn't be inclined to say that I would do that.
The strikes have been deadly, and they have prompted sharp controversy at home and across the region. Those operations are part of a broader policy shift. In January 2025, the administration announced new designations and tools aimed at treating some cartel networks as terrorist or terrorist-adjacent organizations. That legal framing changes how officials justify a wider set of responses. Why private military companies matter. Private military and security companies, PMCS, come in many forms. Some provide training and logistics. Others are built around former special operations personnel. PMCS can offer speed and specialized skills, but they also raise immediate questions about oversight, accountability, and who ultimately answers for the use of force. The legal fences. Under international law, states remain responsible for the use of force even when they employ third parties. Instrumental international frameworks and industry codes push states to maintain oversight and ensure respect for human rights. Domestically, U.S. law creates a patchwork of limits and jurisdictions, from statutes about mercenary activity to laws governing military jurisdiction over contractors. But scholars say gaps and gray zones persist. The administration's pattern and the central worry. In the last year, critics say the administration has invoked broad national security language to justify strikes without full public disclosures or robust congressional debate. Labeling certain traffickers as terrorist actors shifts the legal terrain. For observers, that pattern creates a troubling hypothetical. If legal constraints are being stretched today, could that make the next step, contracting private armed groups, easier tomorrow? How hiring PMCs would change the picture, risks and incentives. Let's be clear about incentives. PMCS offer speed. They can be contracted quickly. They often employ people with operational experience. For policymakers who want immediate results, that is attractive. But the risks are profound. First, accountability. Private personnel are not part of the same military disciplinary chain. Investigations into misconduct become legally and politically complex. Second, sovereignty and escalation. Contractor operations near or inside another country's waters risk being seen as covert attacks on a sovereign state. Third, legal exposure. Contractors and their corporate sponsors can face criminal or civil liability, and the enforcement mechanisms are uneven. Fourth, strategic blowback. History shows privatized force can generate human rights abuses and instability rather than durable reduction in criminal capacity. Precedents and recent private deployments. Across 2025, We've also seen high-profile private security figures pursue large contracts in fragile states. For example, private security firms led by prominent former PMC founders have been publicly linked to deployments in places like Haiti. Those developments show both the appetite for private force and the controversies they generate. The accountability puzzle. Who is responsible? If a state directs a contractor to use lethal force, international law still attributes responsibility to the state. But proving responsibility, securing evidence, and holding actors to account is harder when tasks are outsourced and operations are opaque. Operational questions. From an operational standpoint, proponents might argue contractors bring unique maritime interdiction skills. They might say private teams can launch, board, and seize suspect vessels faster than building new public capacity. Those are tactical arguments, but tactics are only one part of a national security strategy. The strategic, legal, and diplomatic costs must be weighed alongside any short-term gains, regional and diplomatic risks. Contractor action near Venezuelan shores would not only draw Caracas's ire, it would unsettle neighboring states, unsettle shipping and fishing communities, and risk military escalation. Regional governments and international organizations are sensitive to any operation that looks like unilateral use of force, especially in a region already worried about instability. If the objective is to reduce drug trafficking and the harm it causes, legal and multilateral tools remain the safer route. That includes coordinated interdiction with partner navies under clear legal mandates. It also includes financial measures to choke criminal revenue, targeted sanctions, asset seizures, and judicial cooperation to prosecute networks. Domestic demand reduction and public health approaches are a complementary piece of a long-term strategy. The normative question, should it happen? Here is the central normative question. If an administration treats legal constraints as optional, does the end justify the means? Do the immediate benefits of privatized force outweigh the erosion of rule of law, accountability, and regional stability? Those are not technical questions. They are political and ethical decisions about how a democracy chooses to wield power. Suggested voices and what to look for. When you evaluate this issue, listen for 3 things from officials and experts. 1. Clarity about legal authority and oversight. 2. Transparency about evidence and operational control. 3. Plans for accountability if something goes wrong. If those elements are missing, the argument for outsourcing force becomes much weaker. To summarize, the capability to deploy private security actors exists. The Trump administration's recent campaign of strikes and its legal framing of cartels have shifted the debate on what responses are permissible. But contracting private militaries for offensive action carries major legal, diplomatic, and moral risks. The real question is not only whether it is possible, but whether we, as a society, want to accept the consequences. Tell us what you think. And if you want a deeper legal explainer or a full interview with an expert, say so in the comments and we'll follow up. Sources and a read list are in the description. Subscribe for more investigative explainers. Thanks for watching.